This is HBR News number, I better get that number, 389. Brendan Fraser rejects Golden Globes. Teachers commit to counter-brainwashing, where we look at the stories of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and I am joined by my austere patriarchs and our handmaiden, Hannah, Mike J, and Dr. Randercam. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking to you about the news items of the previous week and giving our, I guess you could say, our badgery 2 cents on them. And, we have some great stories for you guys. This week we're going to be talking about the recent news regarding schools or teachers organizing to counter Andrew Tate because we got to protect women from his teachings, I guess. Brendan Fraser is denied or otherwise did not receive his Golden Globe. I think it's really interesting why that is. That's why I chose it. And more. So stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So we're going to be hanging out with patrons. I don't really have anything in lock. I mean, there's an article about Andrew Tate that I might go through. Which is sort of in line with what these teachers want to do, to essentially...
I mean, our cup runneth over with articles about Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
There's even a story about how the Tate Gallery on the south bank of the Thames is sort of encouraging children to transition. And it's almost tempting to do some kind of story about that, saying, what are we going to do about Tate?
Yeah.
to try and draw the normies into, what's Andrew Tate doing now? Oh, it's about the Tate Gallery. Never mind. They can do whatever they like. They're a bunch of fucking arty-farty feminists. Ugh.
Of course. Well, we might do that, might do something else. I have a couple of options. So if you want to be a part of that, join us by becoming a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, and you'll be able to participate in any and or all of the additional content. So please consider doing that for me. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we have been yeeted from the internet, then maybe go to badgerfeed.com. I think it's badgerfeed.com. or feedthebadger.com to look at where our content lives. And you'll always be able to watch it there as well. So, all right. I think there's nothing left to bring up about that intro stuff. So let's just jump into the stories, I guess. Where is... Yeah, here we go. No, that's not right. Try. Sorry, guys. The first story is... Oh, it's Mike J.
Hello.
Brendan Fraser loses out. So, Mike J, yeah, do it. Let's talk about it.
So, Brendan Fraser has lost out on the Hollywood Foreign Press Association's Best Actor in a Drama Motion Picture award after refusing to attend the Golden Globes. Fraser, who was favored to win the award, protested the event due to a groping situation between him and the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Philip Burke. Fraser claims that Burke sexually groped him back in 2003. In 2018, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association claims they investigated Fraser's allegations and determined, quote, Burke inappropriately touched Mr. Fraser, but evidence supports that it was intended to be taken as a joke and not as a sexual advance. End quote.
Well, that would totally work if he was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I just
lots of women
walked up
put
to
with
her
that all the
and,
time.
I just
Grab her
walked up
boob,
to her
yeah.
and honked her tits twice. I mean, it was
Like
just a
that-
joke. I was laughing.
You don't even have to touch a woman to cause that. I mean, who was it that got kicked out of Congress for pantomiming without actually touching the woman?
Yeah, I know. I don't remember who it was, but
All
yeah.
I could think of is the character that he played, Stuart Smalley.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Oh, yeah. You
and he didn't actually put his hands on the woman.
No.
He just pretended for a picture because he thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And totally Al Franken,
Al
thank you, Richard
Franken.
Pierre.
Yeah,
totally
thank you.
ruined his career, right? He's out, he's gone.
Mhm.
And that's what he's going to be remembered for.
Which is to say nothing of all the kid fucking, but let's carry on.
Yeah, you can get
Carry
away
on with the
that.
story.
You can do that all you want. You just can't, touch women.
Or
Adult women.
pretend to touch women.
So
Or pretend, yeah.
Burke would ultimately be expelled from the organization in 2021 after making remarks about the organization Black Lives Matter.
Mm.
The award for Best Actor would ultimately be won by Austin Butler for his role in the Elvis movie.
Mm-hmm.
Fraser says he's open to returning to the Golden Globes, but only if the organization changes. In a statement, he said, quote, "According to the rules of engagement, it would be my responsibility to take a look at it and make a determination at that time. If that became the situation, and it would have to be, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Sincere?
Yeah.
I would want some gesture of making medicine out of poison somehow. I don't know what that is, but that would be my hope, but it's not about me." End quote.
Quote, "It was intended to be taken as a joke and not as a sexual advance," end quote, is one of those admissions of guilt that tries pathetically to cloak itself as not an admission of guilt. It's like the already classic path of stage one, it didn't happen. Stage two, it happened, but it's a good thing. And hot off the presses, Sam Harris just debuted stage three. It did happen, and it's not a good thing. But if it was a good thing, it would be a good thing. Huzzah! Oh. I don't have to admit how catastrophically wrong I am in this universe, because I can imagine an alternate universe where I'm not wrong. QED, Your Honor. Is that going to fly? And here we have a similar thing. They've skipped over the "it didn't happen" stage and headed straight for "it didn't. It did happen, but it was a joke."
Yeah.
And inappropriate touching, by definition, seems to me to be something that's inappropriate, even if it is a joke. You can say something you don't really mean, and then you can take it back by revealing that you didn't mean it. And even then, you might leave a stink of dubiousness in the air. But you can't grab someone by the junk and then go, "Lol, I didn't mean it, I take it back." You can't actually take that back now, can you?
Yeah.
And sorry to pull up this old cliche, as we've already touched upon, phrasing. But yeah, if a man did that to a woman, groped her against her will, and then just went, "What? Lighten up, baby, it's just a joke," there isn't a soul on earth who would buy that excuse for a minute. Not in your country, whoever you are, and not in any of those faraway countries that you think really are patriarchies. Never mind the legality of the situation in any such countries. You'll get your ass beat by the nearest flock of white knights for even attempting such an endeavor.
Well, if they're men. It's a man.
If it was a woman doing it to a man, a disturbing amount of people would accept the excuse before it was even given. What? She's just being playful. She's just being affectionate. Get over it. What, do you hate women or something? It only becomes the kind of controversy that has people scratching their heads when it's man on man, because that's a resistible object meeting another resistible object, or woman on woman, because that's two irresistible objects. Either way, people find that a confusing thing to discuss, but it's really not that confusing in any of the above scenarios. If you hold to the principle, just keep your hands to yourself. It's very simple. Look but don't touch. Especially when it comes to Brendan Fraser, that man is a saint. I will seriously, I'll kill you where you stand.
Actually, there's another aspect to this too. An organization retaliating, and this is retaliation. An organization retaliating against a female accuser would have been soundly condemned. You would have heard it echoing through the entire universe that this organization retaliated against this woman, this victim, who had been groped by one of its authorities. But are we hearing that in the media? Because I haven't seen much about this in the media at all.
No, of course
And the
not.
truth is, this is just being played off as like a conflict between a couple of guys. But this was an act of sexual harassment, an act of sexual imposition, that was inflicted by someone in a position of authority on someone who was in a position to be beholden to that individual, then blown off as a joke. And now, because the groping victim won't stop talking about it, he's been retaliated against by the organization. Like, no one should ever take the Golden Globes seriously again.
Absolutely.
And tempting though it is to say, this is just what Hollywood is like, it's not just that. This is a way in which Hollywood is simply downstream from the culture at large, wherein men are everyone's property and women are everyone's property owner. Hollywood just happens to be an industry in which these cultural imbalances are magnified. If you want Hollywood to change, you need to change, people. So, yeah, clean your room.
Yeah.
Etc.
Alrighty then. Well, why don't you guys let us know what you think about this story in the comments. I have another story that's kind of, I would say it's sort of similar. So we're going to look at that one now. So here we go. UK schools trying to re-educate teenagers who have been brainwashed by Andrew Tate. Don't worry about the Andrew Tate part of this, because that's not really what this is about. Teachers in the United Kingdom are creating lesson plans to re-educate teenage students, boys, who have been brainwashed by the misogynistic influencer Andrew Tate, according to a report. Tate, who is locked up in a Romanian prison on charges of rape and sex trafficking, has had a toxic effect on teens, this is according to the article, who have embraced his hateful ideology, forcing teachers to address his views with their students, according to the Sunday Times. A school in South London gave a presentation to a group of teenagers after teachers became convinced or concerned about their schools expressing views espoused by Tate. The group of about 30 students were reportedly asked questions like, do you think he is still harmless? That's referring to Tate, of course. And, quote, what happens when we take in his messages, end quote. The conversation quickly turned into a debate about rape, with about 10 of the students maintaining that women were responsible for their own sexual assaults, a view propagated by Tate. A male teacher asked the students how they would feel if one of their family members was a victim of rape. And I guess this is how the student replied. At that point, a lot of the boys changed their tones when I put their mother or sister in that spot. But it was worrying that a few core kids didn't and still said they would be to blame. The teacher who spoke anonymously told the Times.
Okay, this is obvious bullshit, because this is a quote from some other newspaper in the mainstream media, and they're twisting this into it's the idea of what women can do to prevent rape. It's not that women can be blamed for rape. That's what these fucking feminists are calling the idea that women can prevent rape. It's the analogy being how you can prevent your car from being broken into. There are some things women can do to prevent themselves from being broken into, and this is it's reinterpreted as it's women's fault that they get raped by Andrew Tate. If they get raped by Andrew Tate, there's nothing they could have done. It was inevitable. It was God's will that Andrew Tate fucking broke into them. And there's nothing we can do but fucking destroy God. I don't know. I hate this.
There's this really neat trick that social justice warriors do. So, and there's other political pundits do it too. And that is to insist that you address their straw man of your position. And what's really insidious when a teacher does it is, if you correct the position in the classroom and you tell the teacher that's not the position, this is the position, the teacher has authority over you and can punish you for it. Uh-huh. So what more likely than not happened in this classroom is, if there were any boys at all in that classroom who were Andrew Tate fans, or who were subscribers to any of his viewpoints or anything, who had knowledge of what he really said about that, because Mike's right, this is about empowering women to protect themselves, not about blaming women. And you have to be able to take responsibility for yourself if you want to protect yourself, just the same way that when you drive a car, you don't run stop signs and stoplights. You look both ways before you start into the intersection to make sure some other dipshit isn't running a stop sign or a stoplight, because it doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong. If they hit your car, it's still going to hurt, still going to do damage, that kind of thing, right? So it's defensive living is something that we do in a whole bunch of different ways every day of our whole lives, from the time that we're old enough to walk until we are old enough that we can't anymore. And this idea that sexual violence should be uniquely exempt from that is actually harmful to anybody that might be targeted by a perpetrator, that might be targeted by a predator. Male, female, old, young, doesn't matter. The idea that sexual violence should be uniquely exempt from our normal human behavior of defensive living, that is unreasonable, and in and of itself, it's a predatory thing to promote it, because you're demanding that people make themselves vulnerable in order to promote your ideology. And feminists do that all the time, right? So these boys in this class are being targeted by this. And there's two ways that this is harmful to them that are both particularly abusive. One is for them to be made to believe that if something bad happens to a woman, all men are responsible. No woman is responsible for defending herself against it, or engaging in defensive living in regard to any kind of sexual predatory behavior. So they have to be worried for the rest of their lives that they're just not doing enough to prevent the bad guys from hurting the women in their lives. Right? That's the first thing. The second thing is they're being taught the same thing. You can't engage in defensive living where sexually predatory behavior is concerned. Do I have to explain why this is a bad thing for teachers to teach boys? Why it is predatory for teachers to tell boys that they're not allowed to engage in defensive living with regard to sexually predatory behavior? Do I have to bring out the big list of 500 teachers from Canada or the big list of 500 teachers from America? I'll bet there's a shitload of teachers in the UK too that have done it, right? That are just using the school system as their own little private playground to molest boys. And it's a major phenomenon. And it's not all the teachers, right? It's not every teacher, but it's enough.
We do a story about this every other week of some teacher in Canada or the US or the UK, some female teacher who's raped a bunch of boys and got away with it.
Yeah, so
But that's the good brainwashing.
What on earth could possibly be a teacher's motivation for objecting to a grown man teaching boys that people, in order to avoid or protect themselves from being preyed upon by sexual predators, should engage in defensive living, even where sexual violence is concerned? I wonder.
And bear in mind, this is a story of teachers essentially telling girls that they shouldn't engage in defensive living, because that's victim blaming.
All right. But the boys are getting the same lesson. If girls can't engage in defensive living against sexual predators, boys can't either, right? So I would be like, if that was the school where my kid had gone to school, I would be in there asking a shitload of questions. First of all, why are you teaching my kid which people he can and can't listen to? Why are you the arbiter of who is brainwashing my kid? What if I asked him to listen to Tate? What if Tate had some important things to say? And then we had a talk about, these important things, why they're valuable and valid, and what might not be, and why he can't be right about everything. Same with Jordan Peterson. Can be right about many things, can't be right about everything. Very different men, very similar attacks for very similar reasons.
It's because Andrew Tate is corrupting the minds of 11.6 billion people.
Oh, yes. Yes. There's
the youth. Better get the hemlock ready.
I'm referring to a tweet by Charlotte Proudman, which I only know about that because I follow Paul Eamon.
Don't
you know they're listening to him on Mars too, That's the thing. It's the 11. It's got to be that. Those
because I don't think
misogynistic
there are
Martians.
11 billion people
There's like
on
8
Earth.
billion people on Earth.
So I don't.
Just I think under still.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're coming up on 8 or 9. Go ahead.
So in today's episode of Stop Making Me Defend Andrew Tate, has he raped anyone?
Not that I know of.
He hasn't been convicted of raping anyone, and I don't think that's what he's accused of.
No. Exactly. Like, I've heard some dodgy stuff about sex trafficking, and this is not a defense of that. That's not rape.
Well, first of all, we don't know yet. I mean, there's been
sure.
I have to agree with some of the earlier stuff I heard V. Monroe say about this. Like, the evidence that's come out is not all of the evidence. We don't have all of the evidence. We don't know, and this is one of those where you got to take a wait and see approach, right? And of course, V's explained that the prosecutors do this in every case where they release things to the public to make the accused look bad. Okay, so Tree Surgeon says he was accused of rape in the UK. So
was Julian Assange.
Yeah, was Julian Assange. It's like the UK is one of the things the UK is known for in the men's rights movement is that one chick that was found guilty of falsely accusing 11 men. And
that one?
There was another one that was like 15 but that one, she was found guilty, and didn't she pretty much skate with very little punishment in relation to that? So there's and then there's the issue of the police not properly investigating, where feminists complained in one direction, but the reality turned out to be that they were not properly vetting allegations and they were bringing false cases to court over and over again and losing, and feminists were upset because it was hurting the conviction rate. Well, if you try to convict innocent men, that happens. They end up with exculpatory evidence that you end up not being able to exclude because it's too blatant and obvious, and you lose. So I don't know. Tate getting accused in the UK isn't very credible, just in and of itself. Romania, I don't know enough about Romania to speculate on that, but from what V. Monroe said on his channel, the behavior that's going on right now with the prosecutor leaking things to the public is par for the course, and I think it's to influence the judge. So we may not even ever know
the truth
based on how the court goes, because it sounds like there's the ability to bribe judges, and there's also the ability to humiliate judges into ruling a particular way. So no matter what the ruling's going to be, the people who don't like it are gonna claim one of those things happened illegitimately, and that the ruling was illegitimate or false. So I don't know. The public persona that Tate that Tate has is almost certainly put on, right?
Yeah.
He's probably a different person in private to a degree. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everything he says in public is a lie. He's never... has he ever been convicted of anything? Because I haven't heard about him in the news until he started talking about things that feminists didn't like, and boys started watching him.
Not to my knowledge.
No, I think
he's convicted in the court of public opinion. And that means all the things.
Him not having a criminal history kind of sounds like maybe he shouldn't be judged too harshly until real evidence that is irrefutable evidence of a crime comes out in public. And it would be to everybody's advantage if the hearing was made public, but it probably won't be.
Yeah. Well, just to bear in mind, the purpose of this story is not necessarily to condemn or clear Andrew Tate's name, but is rather to comment on the I guess the lengths that teachers apparently are willing to go to intervene on young men's interest in Andrew Tate's material. And of course they're not
and just
going
remember
to... Go ahead.
He's telling boys to make something of themselves, and teachers are intervening against that.
Yeah, exactly. And
sorry, continue the story. Read it out. We're already halfway through it, folks. We just have lots of things to say.
Oh yeah, let me finish reading the thing. But I just wanted to make sure that we know this is what it's really about, because Tate is kind of inconsequential. Like, this could be anybody, saying this and trying to do this for men, and they're going to go after him anyway, because it seems like the problem is not that it's Andrew Tate. I mean, if it was Jordan Peterson, they'd do that too. The problem is that he's talking to men, and men are listening, and they're genuinely interested in this conversation. And I think that's the thing they don't like, and that's why they're trying to, I guess, counter-propagandize their kids, which I think that's like the really telling thing, right? So there is more to the write-up. Let me finish it really quick.
I think you were at Jay Jordan, a teacher from Dundee in Scotland. Yeah.
Thank you. Jay Jordan, a teacher from Dundee in Scotland, told the Times the recent interest in Tate's influence is evident among her students. You used to have to deal with sexist stuff, but now it is explicitly connected to Andrew Tate. The boys did not stop talking about him, she said. Jordan recalled how she rebuked one of her students. He shot back with He shot back that she was, quote, just a woman, end quote. She said that She said that, quote, "We've definitely gone backwards and it's worrying." Tate's first rise into the limelight came when he appeared as a contestant on the UK version of Big Brother in 2016. So that's basically where he came from.
Shut down Big Brother is for the good of all people.
He was back in 2016. He was booted from the show after a video emerged of him allegedly attacking a woman. Tate claimed the video was edited and had a total lie trying to make me look bad, as reported by the BBC. In 2017, during the height of the Harvey Weinstein allegations, Tate was kicked off of Twitter for saying that women should bear responsibility for being sexually assaulted. Last month, Tate and his brother Tristan, along with 2 other men, were arrested in Romania for allegedly running a criminal organization that lured in women and used them or held them for sexual exploitation. Romanian authorities raided his properties and discovered Tate and his brother had allegedly exploited 6 women who were kept as virtual prisoners. Is it virtual prisoners?
Virtual prisoners.
Not real prisoners, virtual prisoners.
Trapped him in the Matrix?
Yeah,
Yes,
what?
apparently.
Or in the metaverse, eh?
Shouldn't have smoked that digital vape. Now I'm working at the metaverse Chipotle.
Oh,
God. That would be hell.
Yeah, so exploited 6 women who were kept as virtual prisoners in some of his luxury properties. Like, are they real properties or virtual properties? He was ordered to be held for 30 days in Romanian prison on December 30th while the investigation continued.
All right, right. Teachers are desperately trying to make Andrew Tate the ultimate taboo subject and not understanding how their students could possibly be drawn to a subject that authority figures find taboo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, didn't we do this story already, like a couple of months ago? Like almost the exact same story, but
Yeah.
it's still happening. Is it? That's the story. The mass media is still talking about it because teachers are still baffled at the revelation that teenagers can be rebellious against authority figures. We keep telling them not to swear, but they keep swearing. It's the darndest thing, I tell you. So I'm going to keep trying to hit this home through the use of simple analogies. The only reason swear words exist is because we make them taboo.
Mm-hmm.
Like words don't just materialize from a clear blue sky into the lexicon as offensive words, leaving everyone to reluctantly play whack-a-mole with them forever. Words evolve organically, and if those words have a certain sonic flavor that makes them coarsely expressive, particularly if they're monosyllabic and based on consonants that are plosive or fricative, fuck, shit, cunt, etc., then people will enjoy using them as all-purpose expressions. And for some reason, adults don't like it when children use simple words to express simple reactions. So they try to ban those words, and the Streisand effect works its magic. And the great irony that arises from this state of affairs is adults swear all the time, just not in front of children. And children swear all the time, just not in front of adults.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the fucking point? If everyone just let everyone swear, if everyone just allowed everyone to use whatever words they want, there would be no swear words. And people would go back to just grunting when they stub their toe or whatever. It would happen in like a generation or less. I swear to God. And it's the same with Andrew Tate. For some reason, this guy has become a human swear word.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a weed that people are trying to get rid of by pissing on it and shitting on it, because they don't understand that all they're doing is watering it and fertilizing it. I mean, to some degree, they do understand what they're doing, but they can't help themselves because they have no idea what to do other than pissing and shitting on things they don't like. Like, if you don't want kids to know about Andrew Tate, if you don't want them to listen to Andrew Tate, then shut the fuck up about him. But you won't. You'll double down by having him arrested. You'll triple down by having him killed. You'll keep martyring him into some kind of goddamn messiah because you're a bunch of shitbag cunty fucking cunt fucks. I have a lot more to say, but it's just a long list of increasingly abrasive swear words.
To be honest, they're going to do this with anything like Tate because they need people like Tate. They need a boogeyman, right? Part of the goal of having a public education system is thought control. Right? Pink Floyd was right. This is what you do as part of the public education system. You use the platform to teach kids a political perspective and a set of beliefs. And right now, the popular thing is to use the concept of misogyny. And of course, it's been that way for like hundreds of years. The concept of misogyny has been used even in one way or another for hundreds of years as a means of thought control. You hate women if you think these things, or you use these beliefs are harmful to women or a threat to women or an insult to women as a way of making certain viewpoints unpopular. And the viewpoint that they are attacking is that the common man can make something of himself. Because I've heard Tate express that message. I've barely listened to anything that he said, barely seen any of his stuff, but that is a repeated message in everything I have seen. Do these things, and they all seem to be ways of being aware of your own personal agency and stewarding it mindfully in such a way that you do things that are beneficial to you and that cause other people to want to be beneficial to you, and you don't do things that trip yourself up and cause other people to want to trip you up. And unfortunately, he didn't realize that telling the common man that he doesn't always have to be at the bottom of the totem pole is one of those things that makes a certain class of people want to trip you up very badly. So yeah, this is they're going to attack Tate. They're going to attack any man that tells young men to clean their room or to get off their asses one way or another, and make themselves better people, or make themselves stronger people, smarter people, more effective people, anything that would take them out of the control of the elite, anything that would make them not dependent on the elite, and anything that would make them not view a bunch of women running around in their school system as the ultimate authority on everything.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much like it won't matter if they're right or wrong. And I don't believe for a minute that educators haven't figured out that every time they condemn something, it becomes attractive. I think they know that. And I think that when they do this, they create these battles to fight because they can scare the boys' mothers, and they can use the situation as a control mechanism to force the boys into compliance.
Yeah. All that is true. So
plus he's an avatar of online media.
Yeah.
And people because I went home over the Christmas holidays, and I was as such subjected to the BBC, and the BBC didn't hesitate to be like, beware Andrew Tate, he's been arrested in Romania for all the hideous things he's done to women. He's an online personality, by the way. So beware online misogyny.
Mhm.
And this is something the old media is going to continue to do to the new media, because they want you constantly afraid
Mhm.
of anything that presents competition.
Then it's been
to
totally
them.
effective so far.
It's almost
Yeah.
like
But
they
that's not
realized.
going to stop them.
It's almost like they realized they can't take down Joe Rogan. They've
Mhm.
tried and tried and tried that about 100 times. Can't do it.
Mhm.
Not working.
Mhm.
So like, who's like lower on the totem pole that we can take down to make a point? Oh, look, it's another guy espousing men work on themselves, who was also a former MMA guy, who also has a very big following online. Cool, let's ruin him. Let's see if we can do that.
Yep.
But they were too late to throttle him. They were too late to shadow ban him.
Yeah.
In the meantime, here's us guys who have been going out into public and speaking out against censorship ever since 2015. They got in there as soon as they could and throttled us to make sure we were never in the position to influence people in the first place. Because we actually talk sense. We don't just talk this shit about, hey, fuck as many women as you can. We're here going, maybe you shouldn't, maybe you shouldn't. And they made sure they got us out of the arena before we even had the opportunity to become as
Yeah.
popular as Andrew Tate. And yeah, it's really not this linear thing, because you have your Andrew Tates and you have your Joe Rogans and you have your Honey Badger Radios. Yeah, they can't get rid of Joe Rogan because he was already popular and he's not saying unbelievably stupid shit.
Mhm.
They can get rid of Andrew Tate, even though he did get hugely popular because he is saying stupid shit. But they can't. They could get rid of us because even though we're not saying stupid shit, we were saying perfectly sensible shit a long time ago. When they were first testing out those algorithm things they could do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So
Well,
we're gonna.
I'll never forget my first shadow ban was for discussing a real case and pointing out that vexatious litigation and malicious prosecution happen and get used against men. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to the final story. I have some super chats that I have been neglecting. So Albert Data Retro gives us $2 Canadian and says Franken on a USO tour where she'd grabbed sailors. I think he's referring to
Yeah.
Al Franken. Albert Data Retro then gives us $2 Canadian again and says, sorry, I was wrong about that. So apparently he was wrong and he's issuing a correction.
I remember it was on a helicopter. The story about it said it was on a helicopter. And it did take place on some sort of
Base or something?
no, some sort of trip for comedy purposes. Like they were working together to be doing something,
Right.
but I can't remember all the details of it.
I see.
USO sounds correct, but I mean that could be wrong, and I don't know about what her comedic activity was on that trip. I just know it was one of those situations where like nobody would have accepted it if a Republican did it, so the Democrats were kind of forced to say, all right, you're out of here. We don't accept this, and goodbye, and that was it. His career was over.
Or at least that, like his sort of political.
Yeah, his political.
He's still a comedian, so like he's probably gonna.
But is he doing anything?
I don't
Is he
know.
doing
I
any
mean,
work? That's the question.
Well,
like
that's
I
the
haven't heard a
thing.
thing from him since then.
Yeah, well,
I would imagine every politician has some kind of photo like that, or some kind of piece of evidence like that could get them crushed
Oh
at
yeah.
any moment, as soon as the machine doesn't like them anymore.
Mhm.
It's much like this Joe Biden thing. Now that people are suddenly discovering all those classified documents in his house, it was perfectly within the machine's power to burn all of those documents as soon as they were found and never let them see the light of day. But they somehow are seeing the light of day, which has got a lot of us wondering. Maybe the machine finally wants to sacrifice Joe Biden on the altar of whoever the fuck's coming next.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yep.
entirely plausible. All right. Zeranx gives us $5 and says, "Schools are the indoctrination centers? Question mark. Of course not. How could you think such a thing? No, Ricky, your teacher is having your baby is a good thing." Thank you for that. Zeranx gives us another $5 and says, "Practicing Tate, you tating tater doesn't work so well. We need someone with a better functional name." And that is it for the super chats.
Wouldn't it be funny if his name was Richard instead of Andrew?
Dictate. I see what you did there.
Yeah. That's pretty good. All right. So
Do we have any super chows?
let me see. I don't know. Check. I'm gonna have to check my phone.
We do. I can read it if you want me to.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Read it.
So from Meredith G with the $5 donation, honey for the badger, the narrative about Fraser will point out the injuries he had and the bad career choices, but how much of the problem that Fraser had is that options for jobs were taken off the table because he had been willing to stand up to harassment from a powerful person.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Meredith G.
It's a good question.
Yeah, that was the thing too about this whole thing with Brendan Fraser is that, you know, he's basically got a Me Too story.
Yeah.
And he no one in Hollywood seemed interested in it. So it just kind of sat on the back burner. It's kind of
Like they were
up.
interested in crushing it.
Yeah, basically. I mean, his problem was with another man, so that doesn't necessarily make this gendered, but still really, really weird that his story or his complaint is the thing that was knocked down. And
and his problem was with a man involved in a position that sort of determined he's the picker of who is popular. Right? These awards are essentially a popularity contest in Hollywood. So he's an arbiter of who's who, right? So this happened with an arbiter of who's who, and suddenly the media isn't so keen on protecting victims against retaliation.
Mm-hmm. That's true. All right. Well, is there any others, Mike? Any other super trials?
No, that was the one.
All right. So then, with that said, we're going to move on to the final story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I look forward to seeing your thoughts. So, what are we talking about now? Actually, I can just... Oh, right. I forgot about this. Okay, so I just want to say up front, I picked this story because I thought it was interesting that people were speculating about this. You don't ever see that with men and with male victims, right? And so that was one part of it, but the other part is that if this is true, it does not exonerate anyone for any wrongdoing, but it may help us gain some insight so that we could potentially prevent things like this in the future. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and take us to the page. Former classmates of the accused killer Bryan Kohberger. You guys may have heard about Bryan Kohberger, who I believe he stabbed 4 University of Idaho students while they slept in an off-campus home in the early hours of November 13th. Kohberger was arrested on December 30th, okay? Kim Kennelly told the FBI that Bryan Kohberger had a crush on her in middle school. Her mother told media that, quote, he would say, "Oh, Kim, I think you're really pretty," just like the weird comments. And she'd say, "Oh my God, leave me alone." She did not give him the time of day, the mom noted. When kids are little, they're mean. They don't say, "Oh my God, thank you," but no. Kennelly would eventually tell Kohberger to buzz off, breaking his heart. Another classmate, Sarah Healy, told Fox that Kohberger was bullied by high school girls. She said he was shy and kept to himself and in a small group of friends, but some of their classmates, especially girls, mocked Kohberger and threw things at him. From Fox News, quote, "It was bad," Healy said. "There was definitely something off about him. Like we couldn't tell exactly what it was. I remember one time when I was walking in the hallway and he stopped me and was like, 'Do you want to hang out?' And at that point, they didn't know each other or run in the same social circles," said Healy. "It was just weird," she said. "But Bryan was bullied a lot, and I never got a chance to say something to defend him because he would always run away." Healy said that Healy said she heard other girls tell Kohberger in their high school to "go away, creep," or "I don't want to hang out with you." I honestly think that that's what led up to this, because he didn't get any support. He didn't get the proper help. And it was mainly females that bullied him, Healy said. Apparently, Kohberger lost a lot of weight in senior year, going from chubby to 80 pounds lighter. The New York Post reports this may have been due to a struggle with a heroin addiction. "I remember seeing him and thinking it was a new student. He was so heavy and lost to so much weight, but he almost looked sickly or like it was an obsession. Around that time, he became more aggressive, and I think he became more of an outcast at that point. He became more withdrawn," Dominique Clark, who attended elementary and high school with Kohberger, told the Post. So, yeah, go ahead.
It's important that we don't take the line of "don't bully people or you'll turn them into mass murderers, and boy howdy then you'll be sorry," because that's not an appropriate trade-off. If anything, that kind of does smack of some form of victim blaming somewhere down the line anyway. Mass murder should not be excused as a deterrent against bullying, even in implication. It's a little too close for comfort to the idea of "don't criticize this particular religion because if you do, they'll murder you." That is most definitely not the point. You could draw a picture of their beloved prophet fucking 12 pigs in a gay sauna, and that would still not justify them killing you. Aside from anything else, bullying does not create mass murderers or even violent criminals, except in maybe 1 in a million cases. In all the other cases, all it does is make people depressed and self-hating, and they slink off into a dark corner and kill themselves. Usually slowly, but sometimes instantaneously. So you can call him a weirdo. You can call him an ugly freak and a loser. You can even beat the shit out of him and go, "Her dirt all. You're probably a mass shooter. You're not job loner." And even though you're flagrantly playing with some serious fire there, in all likelihood, you will never suffer the consequences of playing with that fire. Chances are astronomical that the only person whose death you are accelerating is the kid you were bullying. And that should be the message here. It's not don't bully people or there's an outside possibility they might kill you. It's don't bully people or there's a very real probability they might kill themselves. Because that is far, far closer to the truth. We just don't hear about those stories because no one gives a shit when a loser kills himself.
Yeah.
And I realize it's a fool's errand to try and get school children to understand this, particularly school children who are amassed in their various cliques. Children can indeed be unbelievably cruel, especially when they have safety in numbers. So, I don't know. Maybe don't put your children in school in the first place. Schools are basically prisons anyways. Why wouldn't they result in cruel and capricious gang warfare? Homeschool your kids, folks. I mean, why not? It's also the best way to avoid waking up one day to find they've had their sex organs removed and you can't say shit about it without being arrested. These are the days, aren't they? The best days of our lives. This is why I drink. Excuse me while I drink.
You're actually onto something there, but there's another point to be made in regard to this. You know, there was a time when adults allowed children to learn to establish and communicate and enforce and learn to respect boundaries between each other on the playground, with guidance. And when there was something like a fight, you know, you made the kids think about it by asking them pointed questions and discussing what happened. And then if there was any kind of a punishment, it usually involved trying to make them, you know, learn to be involved in an activity together or in a room together or something along those lines without killing each other. And it used to be that we relied quite a bit on the F word, fathers, right? For this, we relied quite a bit on fathers to train their kids to not behave toward each other the way the girls admitted to behaving toward this guy. And that's kind of gone. You know, we're not allowed to talk about fathers. We're not allowed to expect that there's a difference between how men and women approach this. We're not allowed to let kids fuck up in their social engagement with each other and then talk with them about it. We're sure as hell not allowed to tell girls that they've done anything wrong when they're brutal and mean and heartless toward anybody else, especially boys. And so we're going to see this kind of behavior. And it's roulette. You know, you have the overwhelming majority of boys when subjected to stuff like this will either walk away, give up on girls, consider themselves worthless, destroy themselves. 1 in a million will explode outward instead. But each one of them has been harmed. I mean, you can teach a girl to have boundaries and communicate those boundaries without being a bitch about it. And you can teach a boy to respect those boundaries before the girl feels it's necessary to act like a bitch toward him. And you can do the same in reverse. You could teach girls to respect boys' boundaries. Another verboten concept right there. You can teach boys that they're allowed to have boundaries. Right? And none of that stuff is being done anymore. And that is why we are ending up with more and more explosive, violent outbursts between young people. in school settings and stuff like that. It's not the reason behind things like gang violence. That's a whole other
Can of
ball game,
worms.
which is also happening because we have removed fathers from the homes.
Mhm.
But yeah, this just goes right back to helicopter parenting. Single moms cause more problems for kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on this? Okay, so my final thought is parents, like this guy, he may seem like an anomaly, and you probably are watching this and thinking, my kid is never gonna become this way. And I'm not going to tell you that he is, because I don't believe in the fear mongering. I think that the odds are he won't. But I think that it just sort of highlights the importance of being involved with your children. Like if you notice that the guy's losing weight, or you notice, maybe he's just like more like isolated than usual. He doesn't talk to his friends anymore, like whatever it is. I think that as parents, you have a responsibility to get involved with your children, make sure that they're okay. Because, and not just because we don't want them to go out there and hurt girls. It's mostly because we don't want them to go out there and hurt anyone. And the person that they're going to start hurting is themselves. So, now this kid's life is basically over. It's a shame. But I think it probably could have been prevented. My guess, anyways. But what do I know?
As parents, you pay attention to your kids because you want your kids to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's not okay. And a lot of other people are not okay because of it. And it's too late to do anything about it now.
Right.
For him in that situation.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, think about, think about how this potentially could have been prevented, just by perhaps being more involved with your kid and knowing what he's struggling with and stuff. So that's really all I wanted to say about that. It's a shame, but I don't want we don't want anyone dying needlessly. And I think that's what this was. At least that's what I believe. But all right, anyway, that's it. That's the show, guys. So I just want to say thank you for coming on the show and hanging out with us. If you want to join us, we're going to be going into the patron-only show, and we're going to keep talking. Please go to feedthebadger.com, I think. And yeah. And from there, you'll see all of the things you need to sign up and join us. And then you can hang out with us in the patron-only content. And aside from that, I think that's the end of the show. So if you guys like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications so you know when our streams go live. Leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we did today. And most importantly, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.